God, why? Please
So
calm down.
just like when it rains for like 48 hours, we begin to complain again.
Exactly.
I remember
Yes,
the
that's
last
human
torrential
nature.
rain.
Almost a week.
Exactly. People were like, "Oh, this is too much," and now people are still want more rains. So it's very difficult to satisfy human beings. But of course, as for the Benue State people, as an agrarian set of people, we always want sufficient
Rains,
so that our rice farms and other crops could also do well. Remember, we are battling with hunger, so we need to be up and doing around the farms, and of course, a lot more needs to be done, especially for the Benue communities to be able to go back to the farms. Yeah, of course, we will not take too much time in talking about issues because we'll be joined by our guest very soon so that we commence our discussions here. Let's go on a break. When we return, we'll have our guest on seat to begin our discussion. Stay with us.
Welcome to the exciting world of Benue Television, where we give you an exclusive ride into the world of news, current affairs, and entertainment. Ready for a first stop? Ride with me. For Benue Television.
Our news and flagship program, Daybreak Benue, keeps you informed on events and happenings around the nation and the world.
We engage our guests on hot topics and beam searchlight on shady stories.
With millions of people watching Benue TV worldwide, we ensure that we bring you news that is accurate, timely, and dependable.
Our programs are entertaining and educative with high quality audio, leaving you with an amazing viewing experience.
Benue TV, a new dimension in broadcasting.
Welcome back to the program. This is Daybreak Benue on Benue Television, and today we will be talking about rejigging Nigeria's socio-political and economic trajectory. That's exactly what we intend to take a look at today, and we'll be joined by our guests. Remember, we will be joined by Honorable Agbo Abo, the former chairman at the local government area of Benue State, and of course management consultant. We will be joined much later on the program by a legal luminary, talking about Barrister Timothy Amatimi, the public affairs analyst, and the essence is for us to see how Nigeria could be placed back on the right track for development, for growth, for economic, economic trajectory to step up, so that Nigerians will smile and always go to the bank to say this is the country we have and we're proud of it. I'd like to welcome you. It's very important that we say thank you for coming to Benue Television once again, Honorable Agbo Abo, for being here. We want to say thank you. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you.
It's all right. Okay. And so we will be joined by our guests, our other guests, just like I have said. For now, let's begin with you. You are aware that things are not going rightly in Nigeria. Chinua Achebe once said, when things fall apart, it is very difficult for the center to hold. And from what Nigerians are saying, things have fallen apart. But the leader at the helm of affairs, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, is telling us that we should be a little more patient, as he is doing everything round the clock to ensure that the economic woes of the nation are fixed properly. Discountenance on the other side is that Nigerians have lost. Some Nigerians are already beginning to run out of patience. Some have lost faith. Some are still patient. Now the question is, what will Nigeria do to begin to come back to the past glory, or to come back to the track where we can boast of our nation?
Well, thank you very much for this all-important question.
You're welcome.
When we say things are falling apart in Nigeria, in fact, we are being economical with what? Nigeria presently is in a sorry state. And the reason for our present quagmire have been or is cumulative failures in governance over the years. We have gotten it wrong. That's why I'm happy that the topic is a social, political, and even economic trajectory of Nigeria. Every sector, social, political, economic, everywhere is down. Where do we start? Socially, you can't sleep with your two eyes open. You'll be thinking, what happened? The bad news you had yesterday. Who will be the next test of insecurity? Things that we used to only hear on television happening in other climes. It's now what we have in this country. Is it political? Politically, we are just trying to make the citizens be able to elect their leaders from the previous system of selecting people in the name of democracy. Is it economic? Nigeria has dwindled from the previous system where we were competing with, I would say, superpowers, to the present system that we are now competing with the poorest countries. Even in terms of football, that is the major entertainer of Nigerians. The latest is as for we spent 12 billion naira going to Paris to watch other countries win medals. Nigeria is deep in sickness, deep in regrets. That is the.
And so now, when you talk about this, the way you have placed all of these things, the most worrisome of all is the fact that the reports about the poverty level of Nigeria is always abysmal. UNICEF, the UN have always said we are not just poor as a nation, but multidimensionally poor. And this is to tell you that we are poor both in terms of knowledge, we're poor in terms of resources, harnessing our resources. And then the irony of the whole matter is that we are said to be one of the richest country in terms of mineral resources, because this is the only country where you have up to 95% of the mineral resources that could be found in the world, and yet we have remained poor. This is a paradox. This is something that is grossly unacceptable by nations that are willing to grow. What is truly the problem of Nigeria? Is it just leadership? Is it that the citizens have not woken up? Or is it that we're given a system of democracy that is not working for us? Is it that we have not had economic experts that would turn the country around? Is it that we do not have people who will raise their voices and say this is not the way to go and this is the way to go? What specifically is the problem? Once we are able to diagnose the country of the specific problems that are here, we will begin to chart a way towards solving them. Are you sure we have realized truly what is our problem in this country?
Well, thank you for that question. I think we have realized the problem of this country.
Then why is it difficult to solve it?
Yes, I had our president saying in Guinea Republic recently, just I think yesterday or the day before, saying that we know our problems. I would say since Nigeria got it wrong, we got it wrong since the middle 1980s. That is when we started having negative barometers in all sectors.
By the mid-80s, there must be something significant about that time.
Yes. Why I say the mid-80s is that at that time we just started having negative barometers, economic-wise, political-wise. When we talk of political-wise, that was the time that the military came in and never wanted to go back. Even when they came, they would promise that they are staying for a short while. They removed President Shagari in 1983. And each of the military leaders who promised that they came to correct the situation, and progressively each of them worsened the situation instead of improving on it. That is why I say Nigerian march to our present sorry state started in the middle 1980s.
So in essence, you are saying we inherited the problems we have now from the military rulership.
Very well. The military intervention has been the reason for the situation Nigeria found itself. Like I said, each of the military regime came. They removed General Gowon, that was even managing the country when we were competing. That was the time we were competing with advanced countries. He was removed by General Murtala Mohammed, and Murtala Mohammed, even on his own, tried. During his time, things were working. We'll only be hearing of percentage, 10% that had generated to, I would say, 1,000% of in corruption cases. Buhari removed Murtala, and so on. Even during the first coming of Buhari, things were still okay, because no person were not complaining about worsening exchange rate. We were still having 2 naira to a dollar, 3 naira, 4 naira to a dollar at that time. So that's why I say even during Shagari that took over from the military, things were still okay. I used to tell people that I still remember when I bought a bag of rice at 5 to 10 naira in Lagos, and transported in 1987. Took a flight from Lagos to Jos, 100 to and fro.
How much was the flight
156.
then? How much was the flight ticket then?
That is why I say Lagos, Jos, and back to Jos was 156 naira. I have the check stop where they tear it. I still have it.
That's interesting.
Yes,
that's very interesting.
When I graduated in 1983 from Uni Jos, first time I visited Lagos, we took Ikene Delichuku bus, Jos Lagos, 20 naira.
Just to Lagos?
Yes.
20 naira.
That is where Nigerians were enjoying. Nigeria had a country.
Yes, that has also reminded me. You know, civil servants would then, the time you're talking about, travel out of the country for their holidays. And they could afford flight tickets from here to UK and any other country they would want to. So now the question is, why has this changed so fast? Does it mean we missed something specifically along the line? Where is the missing link?
That's why I say the military is.
But this is how many years of an uninterrupted democracy, and nothing seems to be changing.
Yes.
So do we continue to blame the military or correct our mistakes?
Yes. Within 25 years, we expected to have changed for the better. Maybe to go back to when Nigerians were enjoying.
So what is delaying the change?
Well, the delay in change is also the military.
How?
When the military wanted to change, when they were forced out by, I would say, mainly by the Western press, they brought in the spirit of what they call spirit decor.
The spirit decor?
Yes. They brought a military man to continue. And the military man came to rule with the military vigor.
Are you referring to Olusegun, former President Olusegun Obasanjo?
Yes. That is why I say the military left.
But we made that choice. The choice of President Olusegun Obasanjo in 1999. We made it as the choice as Nigerians.
Well, that is where I say the military have been the cause, because when you say we made a choice, that is another discussion entirely.
Now, why do you say so?
President Obasanjo never came to limelight just by himself.
Yes.
During this time, he was voted into power.
That is why I'm telling you now that the esprit de corps of the military was responsible for Obasanjo coming. It's not a question of voting. I still remember Olufalaye, who contested with him, giving a story of how he won the election but was forcefully denied.
You mean Olufalaye?
Yes, he gave example. In fact, he was specifically giving figures how he was leading in many states, including Imo. Give example of that of Imo. where results, one is give the certain number of local governments, and overnight things were turned because they are, well, once you are,
the Nigerians didn't protest that.
Because of the same
yes,
you're talking
because
about.
the military was the one trying to give birth.
But the Nigerian people didn't protest to that, which you're talking about. Which means they were comfortable with the leadership of their president, the former president, Olusegun Obasanjo.
Well, issue of Nigerian citizens is a different story, because I used to talk that Nigerians, even if you are shitting on their head, they will use their hand and clean it.
The Nigerians will
And
say
continue.
That's not the first statement, giving that.
It's all right. I think we need to be joined by our second guest so that we can widen the scope of our discussion on this matter. Let's go on a break very quickly. Welcome back to the program. This is Daybreak Benue on Benue Television, and we are talking about a very important topic here today, and that's rejigging Nigeria's socio-political and economic trajectory. And in the last couple of meetings, we had engaged an Honorable Agbo, former chairman at the local government, and we did inform you that we'll be joined much later on the program by Benue Television ambassador and of course a legal practitioner. I'm talking about Barrister Timothy Amatimi. We'd like to welcome you to the studios of Benue Television.
Thank you very much, and good morning, listeners.
Yes. Well, we like to say that we had gone a little deep in this discussion, but opinions will always vary. And so before we went on the break, I looked Maureen wanted to come in with a question. So let's allow the woman to begin this time around.
Thank you, Jafet. Welcome, Barrister Amatimi, to the show. Before we went on the break, Honorable Abu was giving a very, let me say, rather interesting analogy concerning, the depths of leadership and how we've gotten to where we are. And he alluded to the fact that the military has been the source of, or let me say, the cause of our problems, and still is the cause of our problems. What do you have to say about that, given that you already know that we are in a democratic dispensation, and that means that people are exercising their free will to vote who they want and who they deem fit to be in such positions?
Okay, thank you very much. Looking back at history, it's very common for us to appreciate the fact that if not for the first military coup we had in 1966, Nigeria was on the path to rapid development, was on the path to developing democratic structures. We could gain a lot of lessons from some of the democratic actions of the Tafawa Balewa, in the early 60s, and the kind of ideas they had, only for the military to intervene in that civilian rule, and then it altered the trajectory of country as a whole completely. And you appreciate the intervention. Some of these military groups were more of like a regional approach, or dissatisfaction with the institutions that were already, or the leadership that was in place at that point in time. Not really because they had fundamental reasons for taking over power, because if you read most of their takeover speech, corruption was a recurrent decima that was always alluded to, and they ended up practicing the worst form of corruption in the system. So Nigeria would have been more developed democratically if not for military intervention that we'd experienced. Because if you look at our history from 1960 till date, and then you look at the large chunk of our history have been taken over by military rule. Because from 1960 to 1966, that we had the first coup in Nigeria, till 1979, we had our first, presidential election in this country. And then it took a very short period of time when Buhari took over, in 1983. And then before you could say, Jack and Robinson, they continued in that, until when it became so glaring, under Babangida, after the nullification of the first, democratically and so affirmed the election that was free and fair, IBB decided to step aside and then brought in an interim government in place. And then before you could count what was happening, Abacha took over till the cold hands of death intervened. And then we had
did you say the cold
hands
of death intervened?
Yes, intervened, because of the truth, they were programs initiated by Abacha, of handing over power, but he wanted to transform himself from a military head of state to a civilian president. That was what he was working towards, until the cold hands of death snatched him away, and then Abdulsalami took over. And we must really respect him for sticking to the rules and the promise he made to Nigerians that he was going to hand over power. And then you appreciate the fact that when Abdulsalami took over, most Nigerians had this reservation about politics and participation in politics, considering what happened to Abiola, and a lot of people who were eminently qualified stayed away from politics
for fear of death.
Yes, for in fact, if you spend your money at the end of the day, elections are nullified. Of what good, would that serve you? So a lot of people at that point in time stayed away. So very few persons were courageous. Some who were sponsored by the military were able to contest elections, and then they won elections, and then we returned to democracy in 1999.
The military still had a hand.
They still had a hand. In fact,
the
constitution we have today, it was the military that constituted the panel that drafted the constitution we have today.
Yes.
Right? And that is why you see most of constitutional lawyers questioning the preamble to the constitution that posits that we, the people of Nigeria, haven't resolved. Who are the we in the constitution when just a selected few assembled by the military came together and drafted the constitution and handed it over onto us? That accounts for why, of all the provisions of the constitution, there is no provision in our constitution for referendum that allows the people to vote on fundamental issues that affect them. It's a deliberate action, right? So at the end of the day, when topical issues are brought up for discussion, Nigerians have little or no input. Only the few selected so-called House of Representatives or the Senate or the House of Assembly most times begin to make policies without even consultations with the people. Just recall, just recently, a bill was thrown out from the House of Representatives. A bill that seeks to penalize or criminalize Nigerians who refuse to sing the national anthem. For God's sake, what was the Speaker of the House of Representatives thinking of when he came up with this bill in the first place? Right? So if you look, when we have very pressing issues affecting us, what seems to preoccupy the minds of our leaders are very trivial issues that have no direct bearings.
So it looks like it has been set, or let me say it has been cast in stone, that Nigeria will not progress from the abject level it is right now to taking its pride of place as the leader in the West African sub-region as well as the African continent, given what you are saying, because the military has done a lot of things that are terrible. So when you are building a house, the foundation has to be in order, but from the look of things, our foundation is faulty, and that is accounting for most of the problems we're talking about here, right?
Now, with the series of military interventions we had, it affected the development of our institutions and agencies. Fundamentally, it affected our institutions.
So now,
and then you equally appreciate the fact that up to date, we still have leaders under a civilian regime acting with that military mentality, right? Because in a true democratic arrangement, in fact, the constitution we have does not even give us a true federal structure. it is still drawing lessons from that unitary system of government.
Yes.
That was bequeathed onto us by the military intervention, series of military interventions we had. So you see, there was that deliberate attempt at frustrating and undermining our institutions. Because what matters then was the military supreme council, right? So whatever happens, they have the final say.
So in essence, you're saying we're not practicing true federalism.
We are not. We are not.
Now, I'd like to go back to this, because anybody who is analyzing the position of Nigeria from the political, rising from the military to democracy to where we are, who always fought the annulment of the election that was supposed to have brought the MKO Abiola on stage as a president. What specifically happened? What was the reason for the then head of state, Babangida, to do that? Because it seemed that was where we started. We had a fracture and dislocation.
In fact,
what if MKO Abiola had the leverage and he made the country what we were looking up to?
I really wish IBB himself.
Can you deduce reasons why he did that? Because to date, I cannot find anyone explaining why he did that. And everyone affirmed that MKO Abiola won the election, and it was further affirmed by former President Muhammadu Buhari by bringing back Democracy Day to June 12th and all of that. That's an affirmation that truly this man won the election. So what happened?
Unfortunately, the said protagonist of that annulment is still alive, and he has not really given reasons, as to why he made that decision. Whatever
no one has held him accountable.
Yes, we have not really had, or even had cause to hold him to account for why he did that, and that it's one of the unfortunate, narrative we ever experience in this country. More so that we have leaders who don't really write about their activities in government. Some of the challenges they encountered and some of the decisions they made, accounting for why they made certain decisions and all that. And it makes it very difficult for us to have a very good reservoir of a history of leadership in this country, because certain things people can only state their own personal opinion or whatever sentiment they share in all that, but for whatever reason he had, there was no justification for nullification of that election.
It's all right. Now, and Honorable Abu, you recall that the last State and Council of States meeting, the leader we're talking about was unavoidably absent. Other heads of states attended virtually. I have read through the press release and I've realized that he was not there. Does that show patriotism? Does that prove that our past leaders truly would want this country to get back to what it's supposed to be?
Well, thank you for that question. I think I want to, before I answer that question, issue of notification of the election, June 1993 election. It's literally, that was where I participated in the protests, because that was when I started living in Lagos. Do you remember that during the fracas, I trekked from Ojota to Ikeja.
That's about how many kilometers?
Almost 12 or 15. Yes, 15 kilos trek because of the problem.
Along with other protesters?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I think there's definite reason for Babangida. According to him, he said he was pressed. He was pushed
by who?
To annul the 1993
pushed by who?
Election. He was pushed mainly by the northern oligarchs. But because we the problem we have is that we always find it difficult to say the truth. Even when we say, people say no, they're afraid of mentioning this.
So it means
he was pushed to annul it, not by himself. People were the thing is that we want to, after many years of the North being in charge, we want to give this position to Yoruba. That was really
but you recall that it was a Muslim ticket that brought MKO Abiola to the platform.
Yes.
I think apart from MKO Abiola, the second time we had a Muslim ticket was the incumbent president.
Yes.
And it has never happened before.
Yes.
So why were they not comfortable with his coming on board?
To hit this with the nail again.
The nail on the head.
Yes. Up to tomorrow, some northern Muslim oligarchs never recognize a Yoruba Muslim.
Why?
They don't believe that they are part of them.
Is it an ideology or something?
Well, I think.
Well, let's leave that. It's religious. We are not here to talk religion.
Yes.
Because,
no,
let's
but I
talk
just
about
said what led to their non-mate is part of the problem we have in this country that has even led us.
But the same persons overwhelmingly supported President Tinubu to come on board. So, of what difference? President Tinubu is from the same region with the late MKO Abiola. So does it mean we have advanced politically?
Yes, of course. The situation in Nigeria today now is different. We are talking of we are in a democratic situation where the issue of, say, the president came the other time, spent 8 years here. It must move to the other side.
But you mentioned the northern oligarchy, which of course has been in the news, or let me say, when we're having our discussions, very like you're saying, the truth is there, but people don't want to say it.
Yes.
When the British came and gave us this divide and rule, concept,
yes.
where the North was imposed largely on other regions.
Yes.
So from what you're saying, doesn't this mean that this is still coming into play right now?
Very good. That is why I said that original intention of the North to continue to dominate the entire country has not lightened. Has not come to an end.
You're part of the North.
Well, I am part of the North when they want to use us, when they want to use the middle belt.
You are a northern man.
You are a northern. You are our brother.
Good.
But when you have helped to put them in position, you are even south. You belong to the south, and
you belong to nowhere.
Unfortunately for Nigeria, unfortunately for the North, the more you have the presidency, the poorer they are. That is
but of course,
yes.
As much as we can say that the people from the south and southeast are very well, doing very, very well in business.
Yes.
There is no, denying the fact that the northerners are still the richest set of people in this country.
No, that is not the truth. You cannot. No sector, no country who want to claim, no sector, no country who want to claim that they are the richest by depending on corruption, on stealing government money that
so
that
are you saying the North is the richest or claiming to be the richest based on corruption? Is that what you're saying?
That's why I say they are the richest when it comes to corruption. And I'm telling you now that even that richness does not come in practice to show that when you want to compute the net worth of individuals, they are not the richest.
Yes, Honorable Agbo, but of course there are no parameters or there are no clear-cut indices to prove what you're saying here. Because when the topic corruption comes, it's a general concept for the entire country. The the southeast, the eastern part of the country, the western and the northern part of the country are not exceptions to this issue of corruption.
No, they are exceptions, because we are just saying, when you talk of corruption, we are talking of the access to looting public money. And I've told you that from the beginning, even up to today, the North have been the people that have been leading this country even from the military, even before the military.
And that is to say that the North is partly, or let me say largely, responsible for the mess that we are in.
Yes.
But that sounds like a
before you had said the military should be blamed, solely for what we are having today.
Yes.
Are you saying that the chunk of the military are coming from the North? Because you had attributed the Nigerian problem today to the military, interregnum. So now that you are still bringing it back to the North, does it mean all the military cantonment and all of that are only found in the North? But of course,
it's a very clear something that when you take even from General Yakubu Gowon to Murtala to Buhari to Babangida to...
You have not mentioned Aguiyi-Ironsi.
Aguiyi-Ironsi was just there for how many months?
You have not mentioned General Nzogu, which you are always fond of mentioning.
Nzogu was not, he was not in a position to even loot.
It's alright. Now, Barrister Martin, we'll get back to Honorable Agbo as we advance in our... The discussion is getting more interesting indeed. Let's get to understand something. Nigeria shifted from the regional practice of governance to a full-fledged democracy based on what we said we were going to have. But yet, you see that in all our discussions, you hear people citing instances of the North, the South, the East, and all of that. And we have said farewell to regionalism in this country. Don't you think in the real practice of what we're having as democracy, we're still practicing the regional system indirectly?
Okay, you appreciate the fact that before the amalgamation of Nigeria,
yes,
we already have different enclaves that we are clinged to at that point in time. It was in 1914 that Lord Lugard brought us together.
Yes.
So you can appreciate the fact that that device still exists, and unfortunately, government or successive leadership of this country have not really made deliberate efforts towards bridging that gap. Now you see a situation when someone is elected as president, and from the litany of appointments, some of the key appointments are given to a particular region where the person comes from. And then you see more of a shake-up, both in the security and whatever this thing you have sector, in favor of a particular area where the president comes from.
You mean critical sectors of the country?
It has been there. Buhari did it. Tinubu is doing it. And if you look at most of the sensitive sectors of our economy, today you see, without profiling any ethnic group in Nigeria, you see a predominance of the president tribal men occupying such positions. Now, it is rather very unfortunate that at the moment we seems to be elevating mediocrity or more of a tribal, sentiment over and above merit in this country, and it's one of the things that will keep on affecting us as a nation. Why did the North, the core North, refuse protesting when Buhari was a president, when the issue of NSAS came up? When it was a time of protest against bad governance, you will see the narrative that was being promoted by the Southwest.
Yes.
That our own person is the president, so let's not protest but show solidarity to the president. Notwithstanding the fact that the core issues that preoccupied the conversation around the protest affect every Nigerian.
There's some major part of the North protested. Kano, Zamfara,
now
KB,
you now begin to understand why did they fail to protest when their own person was the president, right? Is it that police brutality and some of these issues that occupied or moreover were prominent during the NSAS protest never affected enough? They were the receiving end of some of these things, but they stayed away only for them to wake up when another person is there from a different region of this country. Then they begin to protest and loot government properties here and there. So that's the living in self-denial of some realities in this country that some of us are not comfortable with. And as it is, we don't see any deliberate or conscious efforts on the part of government to move the people away from that negative narrative, from that parochial way of doing things. Because in fact, at the moment, it seems to be more of a state policy, depending on who is in charge at the moment. That if you look at the appointment, once someone takes over, the hierarchy, the military hierarchy, whether it favors a person or not, whether the next highest ranking officer is eminently qualified or not, they may go back and pick a tribal person who may be in that hierarchy, the least, and then elevate the person to the highest rank. And then that compares persons that were trained with the national resources of this country to resign in compliance with the convention that is known with the military system.
Yeah.
So some of these things have been happening.
I would want you to link up this, because what you are saying is beginning to give me a picture of what has happened with the issue of the IGP. I don't know whether this will have to relate to it. The extension of time for the IGP is akin to what you're talking about here. And then apart from that, I would want you to talk about what's happening with the justice system in Nigeria as well. Yesterday, Justice Kekere Kudirat was recommended by Ariwola, who is exiting an office this month, at the end of this month. And Kudirat was recommended to the president for replacement
as the most senior official.
Yeah, as the most senior. Yes. And then the politics of this person would have been the one to hold this session, but because so many things were playing out. So I'm not a lawyer, but I was beginning to see that maybe something is happening in the justice theater. What is happening there? Could it be one of the issues you are raising here? Could it be politics?
To a very large extent, the tradition that is established in the legal profession is most often respected. Now, from day one, the very day you are appointed as a judge, you know your senior, and your elevation or appointment as the head of court follows that seniority order. So she is the next most senior justice of the Supreme Court after the current Chief Justice of Nigeria will retire on the 22nd day of August, right? So she is eminently qualified, right? Now there was something that played out during Buhari's time.
Yes.
When Onogen was winched, hunted out of the office, and and that
how did you say which
one? No, you see, we knew what played out.
But there on him.
Yes. That notwithstanding, the procedure that was adopted
for his removal,
right?
Yes.
You have a situation where a sitting Chief Justice of Nigeria, via an ex parte application, was suspended from office against the grain of the fact that it is a National Judicial Council that is responsible for the appointment, promotion, and discipline of judges.
Yes.
Do you get the point? So you see the narrative, but at the end of the day, he went to court, but for whatever arrangement that happened behind the scene that we're not privy to, the matter was withdrawn in court. So these are some narratives that some of us are not really comfortable with. I even know that at the moment there is a petition that some group of persons have written against the likely person who is to take over from the current Chief Justice of Nigeria, over declaration of assets and all that.
Yes.
And you begin to wonder where we are heading to as a nation when you see some of these things happening, right? And you see, the judiciary was very, very viable and fearless under the military regime.
I was going to ask you about that.
Now, early this morning I was pondering what happened, what went wrong because of history as far as the judiciary is concerned. And then a thought struck me. Now, during the military era, we were not having elections to determine who will become the leader of this country. So when matters were brought before the court, because I've read very sound court pronouncement that descended heavily, notwithstanding the fact that the military were ruined by degrees and all that.
It happened during the
The
military
judiciary,
era.
yes, they were very firm, because there was a time when after the wahala between Gawan and Ojukwu,
yes,
and then how the military descended on the properties of Ojukwu in Lagos and all that, he took the government to court.
Yes.
And the court were very firm in condemning the action of the military.
Look at the lawyers that sued for Kensa Rowiwa.
Exactly. Now, in this time around, I see that we had a kind of involved judiciary so much in our electoral system.
And so that has led the system to a corrupt state.
And that has brought them very closer to the politicians. That's my thought.
Yes.
And the much involvement of the role of the judiciary in determining who becomes an elected person in this country, to a very large extent, have affected that institution.
And so
and until we stop pretending, and until we kind of reduce the role the judiciary plays in our electoral system, we'll continue to have some problems.
But don't you think
because the politicians,
yes,
are interested in that institution. The politicians are interested because
they know interested, or they have politicized the system.
I'm coming to that point. They're so interested in the system, in the judiciary, because they appreciate the fact that yes, you may win election at the pool fairly, but at the end of the day, if the petitioner challenge the process in court, the persons that have the final say as to the winner of that election is the judiciary. So how then do I get to have someone in the system that protects my interest, whether I win or not?
But don't you think that this role that the judiciary has, that is critical to the elections, don't you think that this role is something that cannot be downplayed? Let me give you an example. Just like you say, once someone wins the elections, whether fair or square, okay, let me use the instance of someone that has won fairly, but then because of the litigation processes around the whole elections, and then whoever is supposed to get the final judgment, monetary,
Welcome to the program. This is Daybreak Benue on Benue Television. We sincerely apologize for that glitch. Thank goodness we are back and we'll continue to advance our discussion on what has brought us here, socio-economic and political trajectory of Nigeria. Barrister Timothy Amatimin and of course Honorable Abo are here doing very good justice to the topic. Before the break, Maureen had posed a question to Barrister Timothy, and I think we need to take it up from there. If you have lost track of the question, he's there to retract it. Yes.
You did mention the fact that the judiciary had been involved a lot with the executive. So I was trying to get your perspective. Don't you think that involvement, whether we like it or not, is something that cannot be ignored, and it has to do with the character of people or persons who are in that judicial process? Because we're in the military, or let me say, before we got into the democratic rule, our common enemy was the military. Everybody's common enemy was the military. But now we are in the democratic dispensation. So it means that we have moved away from that focus that the military was our enemy, and now it seems like individual and regional interest seems to be the focus. So don't you think that this interplay between the judiciary and the executive has to do more with character and loyalty to the country, the constitution, as well as your own self?
Maureen, I will tell you for free that if we have an independent and corrupt-free judiciary that is fearless, a lot of mess will not happen in this country. Because the judiciary plays a very fundamental role. In fact, amidst the three arms of government, if you ask me, the judiciary is the most powerful among the three. Now, guess
what's the most powerful, or is the most powerful?
Is the most powerful.
Okay. Or supposed to be the most powerful.
Yes. Now, all things being equal, the work of the legislature is to make laws. Yes. Those laws made by the legislatures are subject to the interpretation by the judiciary. Now, implementation of government policies is the work of the executive, right? It's within the ambit of the judicial arm of government to nullify or accept any act of the executive. Now, the politicians appreciated this very sensitive role the judiciary occupies in our national life for a very long time, have deliberately done certain actions to undermine the independence of the judiciary. What do I mean? If you look at the appointment of judges, who appoint a judge? That's where we begin the conversation. Now, without mentioning names, if we begin to look at recent appointment of judges in this country, either in one way or the other, either by marriage or affinity or consanguinity, they are related to one politician or the other. And then Nigerians sit back and then expect that these people will act like angels, irrespective of their lineage or lining or relationship with people in government. It is not possible. We still have very outstanding and God-fearing and incorruptible lawyers in this country. But guess what? Very few of them will be found worthy by the political elite of such appointment. Because guess what? The reasoning is very simple. When they want to appoint judges, they look at the history of these persons. Come on, this lawyer is very uncompromising. He tells you the truth in the face whether you like it or not. He doesn't care who you are, but he tells you the truth in the face. Now, if we recommend this person for appointment as a judge, when we come knocking, will he really listen to us? So these are conversations, and I really wish Nigerians insist that we reform the process of appointing judges until we have a free and an independent process that guarantees that fearless, incorruptible lawyers are appointed as judges. Because the rules at the moment is that a lawyer who has practiced law for 10 years qualified to be made a high court judge, and who does the appointment, you'll see the role the executive play in that that process. And we can't be pretending a corrupt governor, a corrupt president will be interested in appointing judges that will do his bidding. And it's not rocket science for you to identify this, because in all areas, in fact, even among the apostles Jesus called, there was a corrupt one among them. Now, so you shouldn't expect that among lawyers, all of them are sent. There are very bad elements among us. But Are we really giving a chance to the good ones? So that once they get there, they don't mind who you are. They tell you the truth in the face. Look at the sound judgment we have under the military era. We had very fearless judges who could look the military in the face with all the power and might they had and tell them that these actions were wrong. But today, what we are experiencing is very far-fetched from what we saw under the military era.
But don't you think that there's a lacuna in the sense that having painted this scenario of having sound judgments during the military era, I beg your pardon, don't you think there's a lacuna in terms of the legacy from those learned judges or learned men of the law who would have passed on their wealth of experience? And now we have the National Judicial Council, which of course is like the apex body in managing the affairs of the judiciary. So don't you think there's a lacuna in terms of legacies that should be passed on, and in terms of conduct? Don't you think there is a lacuna that needs to be addressed by the NJC?
There is a deliberate distortion, not actually a lacuna. We don't lack, right? When it comes to manpower, Nigerians are gifted. We are very exceptional. It's very, very unfortunate that just in the case of like a football match, instead of going for the best 11, we go for the fifth best and arraign as our best team of players. That's the situation we have. Such that even those who are doing very well, it's very common that the act of the majority have a kind of ellipse them. We may not really see the impact or the input they are bringing to the table. And until we begin a serious conversation, at the moment we are not ready for that conversation, because if today someone is appointed or given any appointment in government, we celebrate. Even the corrupt ones, we know, we celebrate them. In churches, we are inviting them for Thanksgiving even when they are not ready to thank God. And you have situations where the whole community begin to mobilize resources with the aim of sponsoring people, not because they have the interest that these people get to office and perform, but if they get there, maybe I should be given an appointment as a commissioner, maybe I should be given an appointment as a minister and all that. So until we begin a serious conversation on things that affect us as a nation, we will not get it right. Even as we speak, there are still very good Nigerians, very, very good Nigerians who are doing us proud. But are we really ready to work with this set of people? If, for instance, he is interested in contesting election, if he were to contest the election now, I doubt whether he will win, because he may not have the financial wherewithal to buy his way through the process. But at that time, there were people who saw merit, people who valued the integrity of people. And then, irrespective of whether you have money or not, it was very easy for these people to support you. But today, without money, forget it.
So,
that's what the electorate will begin to tell you. That you are talking, we are not hearing you. They want to eat.
And I think, Honorable Abode, the crux of what we're talking about here centers very heavily on corruption.
Yes.
There is no doubt that you have also cited instances of corruption unabated in the country, and he has also followed suit. In 2003, the then president, Olusegun Obasanjo, identified a major problem that Nigeria was one of the non-compliant, states across the African region and in the world that were not taking very close watch on the issues of money laundering, when Nigerians would take our monies in bags and fly out of the country to establish a lot of things. That was what gave birth to EFCC. How would you say EFCC has been able to fight corruption? Some have said it has only continued to abate corruption. It has taught the people how to smartly go into corruption than stop them from doing this. Some have said it has reduced because of the advent of EFCC. What do you think?
Yes, the issue of EFCC and corruption fight. Well, let me just before I go to EFCC, I
want to respond to what Bryce is saying.
I remember EFCC.
Go ahead.
The issue of recruitment in the judiciary and even the entire system of governance in Nigeria is the problem with this country. the moment we don't have a good system of recruiting the best, so shall Nigeria continue to wangle in poverty, wangle in bad governance, and possibly continuation of a protest against governance. The moment you don't have recruitment, good recruitment system. Like I said, if you are seen to have an independent mind to take decision on your own, you will not be president, you will not be governor, you will not be local government chairman. And once you have this type that the best cannot come out, how do you now govern the nation well? How do you now govern the state well? How do you govern the local government well when sometimes the worst is presented as your leaders?
So it seems that the assertion you made about the military is still playing here. Because if you look at the chunk of the elite we have, they have military background. Because if you look at their wealth of financial, how will I call it, influence, it's partly due to, their foray into the military.
That is the problem we have in this country. We don't know how to get leadership recruitment well. Sometimes even the good ones are prevented from coming out. Take the elementary case of local government election. When I saw the guideline yesterday that to buy form for local government election is 5 million naira. How many people in the local areas can afford? That is to show that if you are
that's
excluded.
But let's not give everything to INEC. These elections are not to be conducted by INEC.
No, that is why I'm talking. I'm not.
So are you talking about the entire electoral system?
I am even talking about Benue now that has not, at least this election now, INEC to conduct a local government election, at least is in the process. But for the coming one in Benue now, say for you to buy fund to contest local election, to be a chairman of local government, go and buy fund for 5 million. You have excluded in fact the competent ones, only the ones that can be sponsored from the headquarters will be able to buy local government elections. So recruitment system to even local government administration, we are getting it wrong even presently. So that is that people have cried, people who came to me that they want to go into local government, they will participate in this coming election. So automatically have been.
So in essence, what you're saying is that if the time you became the local government chairman in Hado, if it was this amount that was pegged for buying of forms, you wouldn't have had the opportunity.
It's not. There's no way it would have been possible now because.
How much did you buy the form that time?
I think that it was 100,000 naira or so. 100,000. Then later on it was even up to 2012. It's around
So
500,000.
Doesn't this negate the concept of the local government autonomy? Because we are trying to make the local government, levels very vibrant, and then you're pegging the sale of forms or the buying, the sale of forms at 5 million naira, which of course, like you're saying, automatically excludes good and independent candidates.
Yes.
So except you are a thief.
Yes. That's why I'm saying unless you are sponsored by corrupt politicians, you cannot buy form.
That's right. Back to the question of
the corruption,
EFCC, the fight.
EFCC.
Would you say that EFCC has done some significant fight?
Well, unfortunately, the problem we have about fight against corruption, we worsen it. Why it's not working is that we worsen it by having the head of even the EFCC to be corruption free. If you take the history of chairmen of EFCC, all of them were moved because of corruption allegation. All. So how do you now fight fight a good fight when your head is having buildings in Dubai.
But don't you think that this is part of
So
interference
it's
from
still
the
the leadership,
executive?
the recruitment system that I'm saying. That if even Mr. President or the person there is not corruption free, I made a statement the other time that any person, any chairman of EFCC, any president that has benefited from corruption can never constitute a radical opposition against corruption. So that is why EFCC is not helping us.
So what leadership?
Because even recruitment now, if you people that advertise recruitment into EFCC, you will see people are ready to pay 5 million.
Good. Now, what leadership recruitment model do you think we should adopt?
Going to do well in terms of corruption, but this what you're saying now sounds at opposite ends.
Yes, no, the issue of president, is still entangled in that statement that any person that has benefited or engaged in corruptive activities cannot constitute a radical opposition against corruption.
So from what you're saying,
there have been, so invariably I am saying now that it is difficult to even have the president that has not benefited from corruption or participated in corruptive activities.
Good. So
it's difficult for Nigeria to have it.
Now,
even now.
What leadership recruitment model do you think we should adopt? Do we have to go hire, Westerners, like we hire them when it comes to football and all other games to come man those areas? Is that what you're saying?
Get the desired results.
Well, I think, like I always say that yes, if we are always dodging the truth, and unfortunately, I had a Babajide of TVC saying, I think about 2 days ago, that you can't change his character at this age. No person can change my character at this age. That's why I speak the truth. So the truth is that it's too bitter to hear. It's always bitter. That's why they say truth is bitter to hear. It is not possible. I don't know how it is, but I have one of my books where I wrote that to show that we have problem of Nigerians, ruling Nigerians, I gave example of South Africa. The South Africa, the only country that is developed to the extent of being the country in the G20 in the world today is South Africa. And that is because South Africa have been governed even up to recently by the whites.
So you're saying it's inborn for the black man to not be
In fact,
progressive, to be backward
I would say when we talk about a cause,
are you saying Nigeria is cost?
Nigeria is cost. Nigeria cannot.
Is Nigeria caused by itself or caused by the colonial masters?
There's a statement that even if you bring Angel to govern Nigeria, corruption will still be there.
No, let's get something straight on your Bible.
Yes.
Yes. This is the second time you are saying that Nigeria.
No, this is the third time. This is
now fine.
Nigeria, because I have given you the example why it is so.
Yes, let's get.
You cannot get. I just give you example truth now that who is the president now that has no history of corruption.
No. Let's get something straight now. I understand what you're saying. Let's get something straight now. From what you're saying, could it be that this curse is by God himself or our colonial masters? Because you cannot curse yourself. Someone must have done
Well,
that.
I think, yes, if you have to take it further, I told you a story that they say, yes, people are complaining about our huge natural resources. And God say, don't complain. I'm going to give them people that will useless those natural resources. Take that.
Is this written in the scripture?
Honorable,
Wait, is your opinion or?
Let me give you this example. Don't you think that
these
you are
are
actually
practical
referencing
things.
our colonial masters? Because that is where the problem started. If you look at how Nigeria was colonized before its amalgamation,
Yes.
definitely the problem started from there. So if you are talking about this supposed cause, don't you think that our colonial masters started it and then we have sort of
But
perpetuated
when
it?
colonial masters started and even when they went, Nigerians were in heaven.
It's all right.
Nigerian citizens were in heaven.
So what
Heaven
changed?
on earth.
Yes.
So what changed?
All right,
Yeah,
now. Let's give it a moment because time is fast running to Barrister Timothy. Barrister Timothy, there are certain things Barrister Honorable Agbo has raised here, which I would want you to react to them. First, he has alluded to the fact that Nigeria seems to be cursed, because I don't want to accept that Nigeria is cursed, because it will amount to accepting that I am cursed myself. Yeah. So now, do you agree with that, or you want to modify what he has said? And then number two, indirect rulership was adopted by the colonial masters. In my opinion, it's a form of corruption. So when you accuse the black nation, especially Nigeria, of being wholly corrupt, where do we get the leaders? Is it from the blues? And then tell us about the amalgamation issue. Some other person said that's one of the miscarriages we had in terms of our democracy. Some political analysts have said this was the greatest political mistake that ever happened in the country. I would want you to react to these things briefly because time is fast running.
All right. I think I don't believe we are cursed as a people. I don't believe. But I have this belief that we have not, as a people, decided what is good for us as a nation. In fact, even up to date, we still have allowed foreign interference in Nigerian policies. Even up to today, we are still taking instruction from World Bank and IMF on how we should run our economy as we speak. Now, when we have leaders campaign for election, there is a place they always go to. I don't want to call the name.
Please do.
Right? There is it Charlton House?
Charlton House in London, yes.
They go and then begin to address the imperial interest there. And then some of them stay away from debate here in Nigeria. They abstain from debate. But they go there to tell our colonial masters how they want to run the nation. But they can't tell the citizens, the subject, that will benefit from their leadership, how they want to run the nation. Now, this element are still interested in this country. They are still undermining this country. And this is the truth. Japheth, the moment Nigeria regains her rightful place in the community of nations, Africa will experience liberation. We are gifted. We don't lack. We are not even affected by climate issues. We have the natural resources. Nigerians are intelligent. Go abroad. Nigerians are occupying very sensitive positions and they are doing very well as professionals. But when they come back, are we really okay? Just look at the situation where an ordinary chairman, who I doubt whether within the 3 years or 2 years of election will earn a salary of 5 million, buying form, only form, expression of interest form for 5 million. Then a councillor is buying a form of 500,000. What then are we promoting? So you see, the political parties themselves, we need to reform our political parties. And why are we afraid of having independent candidacy? Why are we afraid? So that the people who are in tune with the people, who are loved by the people, will bullshit the political parties and contest election, and the people will elect them. That is the only way we'll have a sane and decent political system in this country. Because at the moment, whether you are good, whether you are bad, you need a political party to contest election. So that platform, once it is not there, and at the end of the day, you suffer the effect of it. So until we sit on a round table. There are people who are interested in the development of this country. There are people, whether we like it or not, there are foreign elements who are interested in the development of this system.
What about local
now,
elements?
we have that. But of the truth, we can contend with the local element. We can contend with the local element. If you want to pretend about it, there are foreign interests in Nigeria. There are foreign interests in Nigeria, and these interests are so powerful, so that they are interested in the budget, in the curriculum we have in our schools. They are interested in what we study in school. So that at the end of the day, you are kept in perpetual, poverty of ideas, poverty of leadership.
But wouldn't you say that we Nigerians are being compliant? Because whether you like it or not, Nigeria cannot be an exceptional case. Look at Rwanda. Look at the states that have chased away France, Mali, Burkina Faso. They are doing well, they're getting on track. So would you say that Nigerians are actually being compliant with this foreign interest to actually sabotage their own motherland?
Now, when one is deliberately and perpetually made poor, it is very easy to rule that person. It is very easy to control that person. And that's why we have overwhelming abject poverty in this country. And of the truth, maybe as we are discussing, how many people may even be listening to us? Right? Most times we are fixed on those who are in the city, those who may afford subscription to watch us, those who may be opportune to have data to watch us online, right? How about the large population of our people who are in the villages, who don't have light to watch us? If at all it is even free to air. So there is a deliberate thing to disconnect these people from understanding very sensitive information, right? Now, at the end of the day, you see a situation. Go to our universities. Look at the caliber of people who are teaching our younger ones. Some of them are there to earn their salaries. They have no passion for the job. Whether the man reports for lectures or not, no one is there to monitor whether he comes or not. Whether the syllabus or the plan for the semester is covered or not, no one is interested in that. One politician or the other has recommended that person to be made a lecturer. So what are you expecting? Even today, look at the admission process in our universities. For you to study a professional course today, you must have long legs. Those who may have the highest of scores may even be shortchanged from the system. So until we begin to identify some of these fundamental issues, we will be very far from getting things right in this country.
Sorry, well, I must thank you very much. Let me appreciate you, gentlemen, for offering to be here in the studios to talk to the Benue people and Nigerians. First, I'd like to appreciate you, Honorable Abo, former chairman of the local government, for being here this morning to talk to the Benue people. I appreciate you for coming.
Thank you for inviting me.
I cannot stop but appreciate Barrister Timothy Amatimin for being here and for your vocal voice on the program. You both have spoken and the Benue people will hear, but we refuse to accept that
Nigeria is
cursed. Yes, we cannot curse ourselves. Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate all of you. Let's go on a very quick break and we will be right back to take the papers briefly, and thereafter we'll call it a wrap on the show. Stay with us. This is the final segment here on the program, and let's talk about the papers. The front page of the the Daily Trust here has this banner headline: petrol pump price nears 1,000 naira per liter in FCT states. Supply on off nationwide, and CSO knocks NNPCL, National Oil Company, silent, and presidential jet, federal government Ogun rebuff Chinese firms' claims. Mixed feelings as inflation drops in July, and monkeypox, federal government puts Abuja, Kano, Lagos, 6 others on high alert. You can find that on page 6 of the paper. And then the picture story here is showing an exodus of people who are clamoring to have premium motor spirit. This must be in the FCT. Well, that's all coming from the Daily Trust newspaper.
And from the Leadership newspaper, Friday edition, above the newspaper masthead we have NLC alleges plot to weaken labor unions. This is on page 6. 21 million naira for running costs, not salary allowance, according to the Senate, and the details are on page 6. The lead story ahead of NEC: APC power brokers planned soft landing for Ganduje. More ambassadorial job for him, shot for new national chairman. APC governors sent 3 names to president. North Central stakeholders tip Al-Makura. This is on page 4 of the Leadership. And then the last one: Kekere Ekun awaits Tinubu's approval as next Chief Justice of Nigeria. This is on page 7 of the Leadership, and that's it from the Leadership newspaper here.
And so that's it all coming from Benue Television on Daybreak Benue this morning. Remember that Monday promises to be another interesting day. I want to appreciate all of you for your viewership. My name is Japhet Kwahom.
Thank you for staying with us throughout the show. I wish you a pleasant weekend. My name is Maureen Young.